Yeah, me too.
You just don't know how to deal
What's
with
your
it.
favorite? Who's your favorite horse? What's your favorite horse?
Oh God. Well, I don't know that many. There's like what you got your sea biscuits. You got your. Was Atreus a horse?
I'm
No,
sure there's
not
a horse in
Atreus. Not
and
Atreus.
something.
What's the horse in the Neverending Story or whatever?
Oh shoot.
Artax, is that it?
That sounds right.
Because that's the one that he gets all sad about because it
Yes.
there's the thing
It sinks in the
and it's
sink.
real sad.
Yeah, that sounds right. So let's say that one, even though I can't remember its name, Artax.
Yeah.
My favorite, it's probably either Shadowfax or Rocinante. And then also joining is Allison. What's your favorite horse?
Hey,
It can be a real horse or a fictional horse, one you know personally. I mean,
I guess Epona in Legend of Zelda is always a good horse.
That's good.
Or Roach.
Roach is a good horse. I had a Roach moment last night playing Assassin's Creed that we'll get to in a little bit. But unless anyone has anything to say at the top of the show, we could just go right into games. I didn't have a good segue for that. But I didn't. It would have been a good. Roach would have been a good segue, but I didn't want to talk first. So instead,
Setsuki's really fucking good, though.
Why don't you tell us
100%.
a little bit about all the tzatziki you've been eating on your boat in Spiritfarer?
What do you think, tzatziki or hummus? Like, if you have to choose a side with
hummus.
With pita bread, it's always hummus.
But I'm like,
it's hummus every single time. Tzatziki's good, but it's hummus.
I feel like hummus has like a level of versatility that tzatziki doesn't.
Absolutely.
Like I would eat hummus with like as a snack like every single day if I had access to it.
If you said this is some amazing hummus, I'm sorry, I don't have anything to eat it, to dip it in it, I would say, hand me a spoon,
not trying,
my friend. No, I just eat it up with a spoon.
Oh yeah.
I mean, hummus is perfect.
But also, it's like you don't have anything to dip it in. It's like, do you have literally anything in your home?
Yeah, sure.
Like
potato chips.
Just
do you
looking
have
around,
carrots?
just looking around my apartment, like I have some bagels. I would dip bagel bits in there.
You can. I can't think of anything except like maybe like I probably wouldn't want to dip chocolate into hummus.
Isn't chocolate hummus a thing?
Probably.
It is.
I'm sure
dessert hummus exists. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Which I don't understand the feeling. So the first question is chocolate hummus good for you? And I assume no.
It's probably better for you than other things.
What about like dark chocolate hummus? That might be a little good for you.
Hummus is like good for you, but it still has a bunch of oil and stuff in it. So
it's like very variable because it's like it's made of chickpeas and it has healthy stuff in it, but it's also very like it has a lot of oil in it, and it's
if you're not eating like plain green vegetables, you could be eating something better for you.
Right.
So there's a really wonderful Lebanese place near me, and one of the items is hummus in pita, where it is hummus, parsley, lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and pickles in a pita.
Oh my gosh, I'd eat that.
It's really good.
One thing I think about like a sad amount of times is that in downtown Minneapolis there used to be they had the department store that ended up Macy's, but it changed up to being a bunch of different department stores. But it had a basement kind of food court type area that had a lot of different things that you could have. And one of the things that they had was this giant hummus plate that I sometimes got for lunch because it had like vegetables, it had like feta cheese on it, it had like little things of pita, and it was just like so stupidly good. And I'm like, man, and they ended up closing the store, and I'm like, I want that hummus plate, and I know that I could like recreate it, but it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
They probably made their own hummus, right? So like it was
you good hummus too.
Yeah, you won't be able to get it totally right. There's 2 Greek food options near me. One of them is like a 5-minute walk around the corner, which it's a wonder that I don't just eat it every day. But then the other one is like a 5-minute drive away, and they're both very good. The 5-minute drive one has a like falafel plate that includes
man.
like saffron rice, which is
Ooh.
just fantastic. But either way, give me some falafel and give me some hummus. That's a meal right there.
Oh my gosh,
with some meat
yeah.
on the side. That's all I need.
Yeah,
for me.
one of
That's
the
it.
places when I was working downtown and actually in person, and I miss it all the time, is they had the Middle Eastern chain Naf Naf. And it's
I've
like
heard of that.
kind
I
of like
think.
fast foody, but it's like I'd always get a bowl that had couscous and hummus and either like shawarma or falafel, and it was like it was so
When my
dang
friends
good. Like I had it like every week.
I gotta say, when my friends discovered shawarma, I had to point out you can put French fries on anything. There's nothing stopping you from putting. There's never been anything stopping you from
French
putting
fries in there. It was just
things.
it was just a shawarma meat.
Is that not? Oh,
No,
No,
shawarma
no,
is the
French
meat.
French
I
fries
didn't realize
aren't-
that.
Yeah, they don't have to be in a. Yeah.
So
like,
since I don't eat meat, the only
Yeah.
shawarma I've ever had is like falafel.
Shawarma is just
like
the
falafel. Yeah. It's the meat cylinder thing that they spin
Yeah.
around. They spin around and roast.
Okay.
and then they like shave bits off of it.
It's like a mixture of beef and lamb or something. I think technically, but I can't remember.
But this was like chicken shawarma. But
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it was
Wonder why they
specifically.
with this place called it vegetarian shawarma then. That's stupid. Just call it a French fry sandwich.
What? So wait. So there wasn't anything like that in there. It was just French fries.
It was like green onions and tomatoes and feta and shawarma and shawarma and French fries.
Isn't
And falafel.
doesn't a French fry sandwich exist, and isn't it British, and isn't it called a chip buddy?
Oh, that is
Yeah,
100%.
sure.
Too bad we don't have Sam here. Anyways, I also like tzatziki, but
Yeah, today the other British thing that happened this week was people discovered that whipped cream in the UK is sold as squirty cream,
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
and so that was a everybody being like, wait, what the fuck is going
Yeah,
on?
so I'm pulling this up. I want to say I feel like Andre today. This and this is not in any way
Going down a rabbit hole of
It's
like
not in any way meant to denigrate like the culture behind Greek and Middle Eastern food. So nobody at me about that. I respect that. But this restaurant, who shall remain nameless because I don't want to drag a specific restaurant because they make good food. They have a beef shawarma, a Bucharest shawarma, a chicken shawarma, and a vegetarian shawarma. The vegetarian shawarma has tomato, cucumbers, peppers, onions, feta cheese, fries, and mayonnaise sauce wrapped in a pita.
I mean, that sounds pretty dang good.
It
but,
is
like,
good. I mean, it's good.
I mean,
but
if they put all those vegetables onto a skewer and spun them around a roast, I guess you could
they
chop down
don't.
that.
It's a mostly cold sandwich.
Oh,
Then that's
There's the fries are hot, but
yeah, they're hot. But I don't know. That ain't a shawarma, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
is that
that's yeah. It
and
sounds
this is the part where
delicious, but
this is the part where I feel like
Yes.
Andre. I feel like if it's a kind of meat, then it can't be chicken or beef. Like you got to pick one. Is shawarma chicken or is shawarma beef?
what do you mean?
You know.
what?
Well, you said it's a kind of meat.
Yeah, but it's like specifically like the way that it's prepared.
Yeah.
Okay. So they put chickens, they stick the chickens on the spit and then spin the chicken around. That's what I'm hearing.
It's like you put it on you put meat on a thing and it's like in kind of like a
No,
It's like
I,
it's
meat
like
cylinder,
it's like
I
a
know what you're talking
pile.
about.
shave
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
I've just
it's
never seen a
it's
chicken on
pile
one of
it.
those things at one of these restaurants.
They
the
usually
It's
is
not like a
always-
full chicken. It's like
yeah.
it's
It's
like it's like
think-
you do
like
like
chicken boobs, and then they just stack those on
they
it.
stack them up.
basically,
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
with
okay,
specific
that makes sense.
marinades and stuff. And
That
then-
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
whoa.
Man, now I could go for that, but like
Yeah, we might be getting Greek food later now. I
All right.
understand that shawarma is not
Don't-
necessarily Greek food.
Don't put it in your backpack. Learn from my lessons.
Don't worry. I'm actually very paranoid about carrying food with me. So I will only ever have it in a bag that is like for the food that is separated from other things.
Because boy howdy, let me tell you, a backpack what smells like onions real bad sucks.
I had a heroic move this week where I brought home, it was my partner's birthday on Thursday, and I brought home
Happy belated birthday to them.
Yeah, I brought home ramen from our favorite ramen place, which is very good because they do vegetarian broth for pretty much any of their ramen options and tofu. So we can get like anything on the menu, which is awesome. And so we both got the like, they have like a spicy Thai peanut sauce ramen.
Oh yeah, like a saute.
It's not a saute, it's a broth. They make it's just, it has like Thai chili sauce and peanuts in it. So it's this place is like Korean and Japanese and Hawaiian fusion kind of, but like ramen. So it's really tasty. And as I was coming up the stairs, I was wearing shoes that I don't normally wear because my normal shoes are falling apart, and then I stepped in dog doo-doo with them on. So they're outside and are going to be thrown away before long once I can just bring myself to throw them in the dumpster. I would clean them up and donate them if they were worth donating. Unfortunately, they are like falling apart.
No, there are always some certain things where you get rid of them and you're like, man, I just feel like, you know, that if you donated them to a place, they would just throw it out, and you're like,
that's where we're at with these shoes. They're wonderful shoes,
like,
so it's hard for me to let them go.
I could donate it, but like that's just you know.
They lasted me 6 years. I need to just spend the $100 and buy a new pair.
I do need a good new pair of shoes.
So I was carrying this ramen and a bag of groceries, and was wearing shoes I don't normally wear, which are a little longer in the toe, like have a little more underhang on the leather sole. And so I tripped coming up the stairs to my apartment and just fucking beefed it. Like, because I was holding bags, I couldn't put my hands out to break my fall, which you shouldn't do if you're falling far, but this was short enough fall that it would have been better. So I came down really hard on my knee, and then my face hitting the door broke my fall.
Oh God.
Like, just like full on. For a second I was like, wow, did I break my neck? But the reason I bring the story up is because I managed to somehow think fast enough to like move the bag of ramen with the fall, like it was on some kind of gimbal, and like gently place it on the ground as I like hit. So the ramen was completely intact, no damage to the containers, everything was great, birthday not ruined, even though my arm and face and knee still hurt.
I mean, honestly, I would do the same. I'd be like, okay, I gotta save the ramen regardless of literally anything else.
I yelled, "Oh fuck!" as I fell, but it was because I didn't want to drop the ramen and have the broth containers explode.
I mean, if it was like
relatable,
if it was scalding hot, that certainly wouldn't have made your situation any better.
It wasn't scalding. It would have been fine if it had gotten on me. It would have just been sad because it is delicious ramen. So, and then I had to.
You know what else is pretty delicious though? On top of tzatziki, hummus, and ramen.
Paying the price over the course of 24 hours for the incredible spicy
are you trying to do a segue?
He is, but I need to make it clear, as delicious as this ramen was, I also had to have been paying a gastrointestinal price for eating it for the past day and a half.
Well,
be careful where you put in your bodies, folks.
Make sure to mute your mic if appropriate. But in this video game that I have been playing, which is called Spiritfarer, and I think we've talked about that like 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think Alex, we've talked about like we should play Spiritfarer multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, this is not
installed since it hit Game Pass. I've had it installed for a long time.
Yeah, I always was like, oh, I'm just gonna come back to this because I've heard it's kind of long, and like it's like 30 hours or something, and you wouldn't expect that from looking at it.
Yeah.
And I originally started playing Yakuza. I think I talked about that last week. But having come off like a pretty significant lots of reading kind of game, being Umineko, which there's now a review on the site of. Check it out. But yeah, being that was 130 hours straight of reading, and then the first few hours of Yakuza I played was basically reading because it was all cutscenes and stuff like that.
That's a
And
lot. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, you know what? I need something different. So I played Spiritfarer, which is an interesting experience. I'm not too deep in. I didn't have much gaming time this week, so I'm probably 2 hours in, maybe 3. I can't find an easy way to find the counter on the Xbox app in Windows. Maybe there is one. Maybe I'm just missing it. But either way, I don't know. Let's say 2 or 3 hours in, and it is extremely chill. If you want a chill game that like it also has a story, like it kind of reminds me of something like, let's say, Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley. But my issue with, or not my issue, the thing that ends up pulling me away from those is that it's not very directed, like either of those games. Like the progression is basically based on whatever you want to do, you know? In Stardew, it's like, oh, do you want to go into the town and date these pretty ladies or men, or like want to go into the caves and get stuff, or, you know, plant crops and make your farm bigger? Yeah, do whatever you want, you know. And Animal Crossing is Animal Crossing, you know. But this one, it is chill, and you can grow farms, and you can cook, and you can fish, and you can do all these things. But there's always a story propelling you forward. But the nice thing is that it's not pushing you. It's not like making it feel like there's a rush, or like there's a time limit, or there's like, you know, it just doesn't feel as though you are, you're any under time constraints. It's
That's
just
good.
you take it on at your own pace. You do the things you enjoy, but when you're ready, you can move on and do all the stuff you want. Like you can talk to these characters, you can hug these characters. There is a dedicated hug button.
Oh man,
Yep, which is great.
you're convincing me with the dedicated hug button.
Yep, and it does improve their happiness meter.
Oh shit.
So
It's-
and they do more things when they're happier and stuff like that. So
It's nice because I constantly struggle more and more as time goes on, kind of with what you're saying, where I oftentimes have a hard time enjoying certain kinds of games that don't have some kind of direction or drive to progress. And at the same time, though, like I in like like if to take something like American Truck Simulator is a good example.
yeah,
I like that game, and I like progressing in it by making the money number go up and
Oh, sure.
like
Yeah.
seeing more stuff. I wouldn't want that game to have a story, because as soon as you put in a narrative, suddenly it removes like the freeform nature of it. So it's nice to hear that this game both has that narrative to provide some direction, and then also is not particularly pushy with it, because I think that there's often like even something sometimes like even Stardew Valley kind of this is a personal hang up. This isn't a criticism. The sort of push to like, oh, well, I know there's sort of a story here, so I feel like I need to go and play with the story stuff instead of just like hyper focusing on min-maxing my farm. And I know you could ignore the story, but the fact that like time is passing and they kind of introduce you to the game by having you go talk to all the characters and stuff has always been a sort of thing that's like, oh, well, I shouldn't just do this farming stuff. And so it's always been a hang up for me with these kinds of games of like, where is the sweet spot between offering direction and narrative and going hands off and letting you explore the systems.
Yeah. And I think it strikes the balance well, because like that's also an issue I have with those. Like that's why I bring those two games up specifically, because those are games I've tried to get into, but just there was not enough direction there. Like even if there is a minute amount, it just wasn't enough for me. Whereas this one, it does feel directed enough to where you're making progress in a more directed way, in a way which you're seeing I can't really put a finger on it. It feels better to me than those games do.
Yeah.
And also, so I didn't know going in that it's actually a co-op game if you want. Like there are 2 discrete characters. There is the main girl named Stella, and she's rad. But there's also this cute, adorable kitty cat named Daffodil. And so even if you're playing alone, Daffodil is still with you all the time. And like if you're doing certain things, like let's say you want to cut down a tree for a resource, you use your what's it called, your spirit light or whatever. It's something you get like literally within the first minute of the game. It takes the form of this ball of light, and with you, like it turns into whatever tool you need at the time. If you're cooking, it turns into oven mitts. If you're mining, it turns into a pickaxe. If you're cutting down a tree, it turns into like a saw. And then Daffodil, since it's a ball and Daffodil's a cat, she just ends up playing with it all the time, like going on her back and like flipping it up in the air and like spinning around and stuff. It's cute. It's great animations, by the way. It's gorgeous. But like, for example, one of the ways you see it's a co-op game is that when you're cutting down the tree, it becomes one of those saws. I forget what it's called. One of the saws that has like a handle on one end and a handle at the other end, and it's a push-pull. Whatever the proper name of those is, I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head.
It's one of those. So Stella on one side and Daffodil on the other. So which basically turns into Stella pushing and pulling and Daffodil just kind of flopping around because she's a cat. But it's very adorable, and like if you had a second player, I think it would actually turn into like a mini game. But as a single player, it's still been good. It's still been, yeah, like I've had 0 complaints as a single player. I'd be interested in seeing what it's like co-op, but it looks like it's
Can you
fully
pet the cat?
local. Yes, if you go idle. Like there's not a pet cat button, but if you go idle next to Daffodil, then sometimes petting does happen.
Okay.
Yeah. Daffodil gets lots of love, don't worry. So yeah, again, I'm only 2 or 3 hours in. It's been really good so far. I haven't really had any complaints. It's very, like I said, very chill. It's a much nicer romp through just I don't even want to say systems heavy. It's a game with systems, but the systems aren't too intense. So far it's felt like there's not even really a fail state. But yeah, I've also not guided any of these spirits to the afterworld yet. So I haven't seen that mechanic and like how their happiness state and all that stuff factors in, and if that changes stuff. But I can see that becoming rough in terms of a story, because they do a really good job of building up these characters who kick ass and are funny and sweet and adorable and just rad. But you also are playing the whole thing knowing that your ultimate goal is to bring them to the afterlife. So you know that like at some point there's a finite end with all of them, which I'm interested in seeing how they do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I'll probably get back to Spiritfarer or talk more about Spiritfarer next week. I don't know. Maybe I'll finish it by then. We'll see.
That seems rad.
But
Yeah.
it's really good as a Game Pass game.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to get
I think it's
a
like
lot of hours out of it.
It's like $20 or something too. It's pretty reasonably
I
priced.
think it's
Yeah.
like $30.
30? Okay.
30 on Switch
yes.
and such, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
seems
so I've
super
kind of-
reasonable for a game with
yeah.
that much depth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been kind of like balking at that since I don't really use Game Pass, but it's like, but I might just jump in on that, especially since before the end of the year, I'd like to put some time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would like to check it out for at least a little bit myself.
It's also very gorgeous. Like I can't
Yeah.
understate that enough. Like it
The screenshots look really nice.
when you see it in motion, it's even better, because like the animations
Rad.
are super fluid and very expressive. Like it kind of like, you know, the static art in Hades of like the characters and stuff that doesn't really move.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that, but with fluid animation that changes.
Yeah.
And like
That
it
sounds
is
cool.
very, very expressive, and that's like the whole game. And yeah, it's awesome.
I also will say I love the concept of more games should be set on boats.
Sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime you get to use a boat in a game, I'm very happy.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of like building up the boat, even if it looks a little ridiculous over time.
Maybe
It
you
looks
should
hilarious.
play Paper Mario: The Origami King before Game of the Year.
Probably
You're on
should.
a boat sometimes.
I'll keep an eye. $60 is if Spiritfarer were $60, I would probably be a little less inclined to check it out too.
Yeah.
That's fair, but it's yeah. I was just gonna say, I was like, that was one of my favorite sailing things in a game recently. So
That's
Well,
cool.
you know what other game has some sailing in it?
What's that?
Isn't it the one? Well, at least the series that you're playing, Pat, isn't it?
That's true.
Does the one you're playing have some sailing in it? I don't even know.
There's a lot of sailing.
All right,
Assassin's
cool.
Creed Odyssey has a significant amount. It has the most sailing in an Assassin's Creed since basically
since
Black Flag.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which was basically a sailing game.
Yeah.
Yes, Rogue has a lot of sailing in it too, because it's basically Black Flag but set in the northeast of North America.
Right.
But Assassin's Creed Odyssey, turns out Greece has a lot of islands around it. There's a lot of sailing to be done. It's interesting because it kind of splits the difference a little more. Black Flag was very much a game about sailing. I mean, you spent far more time on your ship than doing stuff on land in Black
To
Flag.
the point where there's that good boat stealth.
Yes, yes. And frankly, it's the boat stuff is more streamlined in Odyssey than it is in Black Flag, but it's not necessarily a bad thing because Odyssey has so much going on. I mean, this
Odyssey has a lot.
There's so much going on in Odyssey. You could play Odyssey almost like a service game just because there's so much to do.
Honestly, like that's like when you're talking about it, like I'm like, oh, I was like, oh, I haven't put that much time into it. It's like, no, I've put quite a few hours into Odyssey.
Yeah,
I just never came close to finishing it because there's just like a million things to do in that game.
So sorry.
So I finished.
Quick question for you, Allison.
Yeah.
When you say didn't finish it, is that
Yeah.
like the main quest or all of the side stuff also?
Main stuff, yeah.
Okay,
I'd like to go back and finish it sometime because like Cassandra is my girl. I love her, but
So
yeah, but it's just there's just so much to do. And then like when it opens up into like all the stuff you can do, you're like, oh.
Yeah, it's just overwhelming.
So
A little bit, yeah.
I finished Origins and both of its DLCs a week and a half ago ish. And I think my final play count on that was something like, I'm actually going to look it up. It was something like 70 hours. And that was with, let me see here. Yeah,
That's
almost
with all
80
the
hours.
DLC?
And that was, yes. However, I spent about 50 hours doing like 100%ing regions, and then I hit a point where I was like, I have to move forward. And so then I spent another 10 hours just playing the story because I had already like over leveled by a lot, and finished the base game in like another 10 hours at around 60 hours. And then the DLC took me around 20 hours between both packs. Odyssey, and that's I saw about half the map in Origins because you don't go to like half the map. Odyssey, I think, is about twice as big as Origins, if not more. And Origins it's cool and it's fun that it does this, but Origins has several large regions that are like basically big desert spaces that you kind of ride across, and it gives the world a really good sense of scale. And once you've ridden across them once, you can fast travel, so it's not like it's like a pain in the butt all the time. Odyssey doesn't really have that. It has like every region is very dense with stuff to do, and it still has an enormous sense of scale because it's just there's so much in that game, and you can definitely get lost in not finishing the plot. If you just do all the stuff that comes as it comes, then you will spend I think you could probably spend at least 150 hours doing everything in that game and doing the story. I'm not doing that because I kind of fully completed the first couple of regions just to see all the different kinds of side stuff that existed, and now I'm sort of mostly powering through the story. I'm doing side quests, but I'm not
Right.
stopping at every single outpost to complete it now. And part of that is my biggest criticism of the game. I should say, I really love this game. I think it's I think it's pretty phenomenal. It's one of the best it's one of the best games of this kind. I would put it up there with like Horizon Zero Dawn and Witcher 3 as being one of the best games of this type that I've played.
Which is, sorry, not to pull you astray, but
No,
which
you're
is
fine.
so weird to me, given what Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood, etc. were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm not one to. There's a lot of Assassin's Creed is one of my favorite franchises. There's a lot of people who pine for old Assassin's Creed and who have like problems with this trilogy, Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, for being The Witcher 3 inspired. Basically, I mean, they're basically chasing that.
Totally.
I don't have a problem with it. I think that they made like 9 games or whatever in the old style.
Sure.
They perfected
yeah.
the old style with Syndicate, in my opinion.
Yeah,
so
I
I'm
agree.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you're lying to me if you say you couldn't, you have like, if you really want that Assassin's Creed so much, you could replay those games again from the beginning. And I just don't believe that if you played all 9 of them and then went back to the first one, it wouldn't be like kind of fresh again, you know? Like, I don't think you can play like 940, or is it 9? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's 9. It's 9 exactly. You can't tell me that you play through 9 games and 100% them, and then going back to the first one is stale, unless you're saying that you're tired of playing that kind of game, in which place, why are you complaining in the first place? So I don't know. I don't have a problem with the sort of open world RPG. I think that this is going to get old too eventually, and they're going to need to find something else to do.
They needed some. I think they needed something to do. Like they needed some place to go with Assassin's Creed, and
Right.
I think that I mean it when I say that they did perfect it with Syndicate. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like they got into such a formula with those games that I think that trying something new in this vein is good. And I mean they're good games too. So that's
Right. So sorry. What ended up being your critique about this game, Pat?
So the thing I like least about this game in general, I think the story is really interesting. I'm playing as Cassandra because come on,
she's the best.
and she's an awesome character, and I love how, like Geralt, she's also a character you can play in different ways, and they're all really good. Excuse me. You can make her like super horny, like party goer, and she's great in that role. I'm playing her much more as like, I set out on this quest to do this thing, and then this is my singular purpose, and that's been really enjoyable to see her portrayal in that way. She's an awesome character. The thing that bothers me a little bit is you are given an impetus to leave the starting island, and then you have to go and kill this Spartan general, and it's more complicated than that. But in order to meet with the Spartan general that you agreed to kill, you have to help the Spartans in the region that they're in. And it's like, okay, I get it. You're doing what you have to do to complete your personal quest. So I'm going to kill a bunch of Athenians here, and they haven't really done anything wrong other than be in ancient Greece and in a military, which they were probably conscripted for. But yes, I'm going to slaughter them by the dozens, because that's what I have to do to complete my personal quest. And then there's a point at which they're like hemming and hawing about stuff that needs to get done, and I'm just like, well, let's just kill them. We obviously don't value people's lives, so
I mean,
let's just kill
honestly,
them.
by that point in the game, like by the point you get like when you're like a couple hours in, you've already killed 1 million people.
Yeah,
in this game.
and so I think it's
like,
and then shortly thereafter, you're in Athens, and they're like, well, we cleaned up the mess you made there. And the thing, story-wise, it's okay. It's fine, and the way I'm playing it, I can easily reconcile it. The issue is these games are checklists. Like one of the most satisfying things about it's not just Assassin's Creed, but it's any of these kind of open world RPGs, is you see something on your map compass, you see a question mark. This is true of all the way going back to Skyrim. You see a question mark on your map compass, you go there, and then it's like, oh, this is an enemy outpost. I'm going to check it off. And it's very satisfying to see it say location complete, and you finish all the objectives. It's fine when it's like bandit camps and stuff, which certainly there is a lot to unpack there as well, with a mercenary just rolling in and killing a bunch of bandits who are just trying to get by. But video game logic, I get it. What's weird to me is I'm in Athens doing quests for Pericles, and then I run past a location in Athens that's like, to complete this location, you have to kill the captain and steal the treasure. And they're like Athenian soldiers in the middle of Athens, which is the faction I'm currently working for. So it's weird to me to be like, so Socrates, hang on just a moment. I need to take a quick detour to slaughter these 4 Athenian soldiers and steal this treasure so I can check this off the map.
Like, listen. I know that we're all on the same team, but at the same time, like, I've got a checklist of quests, and
and so since I'm not playing it that way because I want to play Valhalla this year, I'm just trying to get through the story. I'm not like rushing, but I am generally kind of saying, unless it's like, oh, I specifically want to do this side thing, I'm just kind of moving on. It hasn't been a problem because I've been able to say like, well, no, I'm not going to do any of the kill Athenian soldiers in Athens while I'm working for this Athenian general. But there's a little bit of like dissonance there with the like, oh yeah, pop into this warehouse and kill these 3 Athenian captains, and then Cassandra is going to give like an impassioned speech about how like she's interested in helping people to Pericles. It's just it's a little there's a clash there that I don't think is handled particularly elegantly in the narrative design of the game.
Is that
which in other ways is really strong. So
that's the whole ludonarrative dissonance thing, isn't it? Though, like,
yes, but I think when you're talking about something like Grand Theft Auto 4 is often cited as like one of the great examples of ludonarrative dissonance in games, because you know, the character is like sympathetic in the story and then does all these bad things. It's a lot harder in this game for me to kind of it's like people's lives only matter if they have spoken dialogue in this game. And that I find a little frustrating. It's like I had a moment last night, for example, where I'm working trying to get Hippocrates to tell me something. He needed me to go get his notes from this Athenian military doctor. It's an area that I'm not allowed to be in, so you have to sneak around. And ideally, you would stealth your way into the camp, like into the fort, and then go talk to this Athenian medic. But I fucked it up and got seen. So then I ended up in a combat with like 20 guys, and I Swiss cheesed them all because I'm playing it on normal, and it's a pretty easy game for me. Sure. Anyway, I'm not trying to
flex.
No, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying like I don't find it particularly challenging. I played most of Origins on the Nightmare difficulty, which is the one that they're like, if you want to just totally just destroy yourself trying to beat this game, they're just, they do Dark Souls combat, but they're not as hard as Dark Souls. So, but anyway, like I'm getting chased around by 20 people, Swiss cheesing them, and like just bathed in blood by the end of it. And then I go into the tent, to like the little chamber that the medic is in, and he's like, I'm only going to go with you if you help me save this one person that's dying right here. And like the way I'm trying to play Cassandra narratively, my answer was like, okay, yes, I'll help you first. There is a dialogue option to just say, well, I'll just kill him and then it's not a problem. You can come with me. And that's probably the more accurate thing to choose, because I just killed everyone in the camp, but I don't really want to play her that way. It just was a lot easier for me to murder everyone in the camp than try to redo the stealth sequence over again. So it's that part of it is definitely kind of frustrating, but I also really, really like the game, love the game overall. And the sense of like discovery and exploration and the feeling of scale when you're sailing from one port to another, the feeling of scale when I mean, this is it's the old trope, right? But like looking out at the horizon and seeing a snow-capped mountain that's really far away, and then looking at the map and seeing it's in a zone that's like level 30 to 35, I'm like, oh, well, shit, I want to get at least that high level because I want to go there and see what it looks like from the top of that mountain. It's really cool, and I think they improved on Origins. I really love the story in Origins, but I think from a like gameplay and narrative design perspective, they improved pretty much every aspect. The character development's more interesting. Origins doesn't have dialogue choices. It's more like past games in the series where there aren't choices. It just what happens. Odyssey has the whole Witcher, Mass Effect, whatever choice stuff where like I made a choice early on to rescue a family that was going to be murdered by some priests in a village on the starting island. The priests were like, yo, they have the plague. We had to basically massacre this village and burn it down to stop the spread of plague. And I was like, no, you can't kill this family. So I killed the priests, and now there's plague everywhere on the island. Everyone's dying there.
It's like if you spare a certain German informant, and then that German informant comes back and bites you in the ass.
Yeah. Yes.
We'll get there.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's the choice stuff is really cool. I think it's a great game. I think if you like, it's the most of the whole series up to that point. It's the one that I think, if you just want to play a good open world RPG, you should play, even if you don't have any investment in the series. So far, I've gotten out of the Animus one time, and the meta narrative this time, like out of Animus, is just like, we want to find the thing the character in the story has. We want to find the spear that the main character has. And so it's not like Origins where you open up the laptop in Origins and they're making references to the movie, which I dug, but you might not if you're not invested in the series. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's definitely worth checking out. And I don't really like, not actually upset that I didn't play it in 2018, but it definitely would have been right near the top of my favorites list, I think, for that year, if I had it all to do over again. So highly recommended. I also gonna do these slightly out of order. I finished up the Cold War campaign. I think there's a long, deep discussion that could be had there, but I think that if you're interested in that game's campaign and story, you should go listen to them talk about it on Waypoint and listen to Jeff Gerstmann talk about it on the Bombcast. And with the caveat that I think they're both a little harsh on it, but yeah, I don't know. You talked about it last week, Alex, and my feelings kind of fall pretty soundly in between yours and like Jeff Gerstmann's, for example. I think it's fun, and it has a couple of really cool missions that are interesting and kind of different. It's also a game about Ronald Reagan telling you to go kill people in different parts of the world to save the American way of life.
I didn't give a fuck about that because he was only in it for about 30 seconds and he happened to be the president at the time. Like,
yeah, I'm with you.
If it was set in 92 and it was Bill Clinton, like, or was that Bill Clinton? Was he 92 or 94? Whatever. Like, wherever it was set, it was going to be that president. And Reagan happened to be the president in the Cold War, like during this period of the Cold War. So for me, like, but I'm also not American, so maybe it does.
Yeah. So teaser for a little bit of. I mean, one, Ronald Reagan is largely responsible for the fall of the American working class. Reagan has done immeasurable harm to America and Americans. We can largely blame Reagan for Donald Trump in a lot of ways. Reagan was probably one of the worst world leaders in modern history. So there
Especially
is
in
certainly,
terms of like long-term impact, for sure.
yes, there is certainly a lot of
Reaganomics
rage that I feel when I
they fuck
see
things up.
him.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but to your point, and I think geopolitically it's interesting because, and this is a bit of a teaser for the conversation that they had on Waypoint, but the game opens with with you kind of doing this op to in follow up to the Iran hostage crisis, which was a major political football that Reagan used to get elected because of Carter's mishandling of the Iran hostage crisis. And there is a sort of conspiracy theory that is a little bit, it's still suspicious that perhaps, because the hostages were released shortly after the election happened. And so there is a conspiracy that has long stood that that the Reagan campaign was working through back channels to be able to continue to use the hostage crisis as a tool in the election, and then after Reagan was elected, then all of a sudden the hostages were released. It was a believable enough theory that Congress actually did an investigation into this, and like almost immediately were like, nope, nothing was wrong. So it's very strange still, and it's still a big question mark, I think. I am not a conspiracy theorist in any way, so I'm not saying that I necessarily believe it. I don't know. I will say that the reason that it's interesting in the context of the game is that you go and take out there's an implication that Reagan okays the mission, and I have to watch it again because I couldn't point you to the specific dialogue, but Reagan hadn't been inaugurated at the point that you do the mission in the game. So there's this kind of weird implication there that in fact Reagan has been pulling some strings prior to being inaugurated, and that's all a little fucked from a political standpoint. But I don't think it's intentional, and this is to your point, Alex. I don't think that this game is trying to say anything politically, even though it unfortunately accidentally does, because you can't make a game about international warfare without it being political. And so for me, as someone who can look at that and go, that's fucking stupid, I don't think it's harmful, and I enjoyed playing through the campaign. There's a couple of cool missions. I think some of it is kind of rote, but it was also fun in the moment to play, even the stuff that's sort of retready. What I will say is, if I were to write a review, which I don't intend to do, of this game, I would have a hard time not being critical of some of the more icky political stuff, because not everyone has a political awareness that where they can play the game and write that stuff off as kind of goofy, as evidenced by, if you read that awful Washington Post piece about the game, which is about
my
how
God.
Which
now
games are finally art now.
Yeah, fuck that. So I think it's an interesting subject. I'm glad we're having the critical discussion. I'm glad that people are bagging on it hard, because I think to a mainstream audience, looking at this game as some kind of like artistic breakthrough is ridiculous, and it's like kind of dangerous in some ways. I don't want to I'm not trying to exaggerate, because I'm not like, oh God, somebody ban Cold War, because I like it. The thing I am really enjoying is the multiplayer, which other folks have not been as hot on, but my group of friends that I play these games with, we're having a lot of fun with the multiplayer. I like the feel. It's higher time to kill than Modern Warfare, so it has a bit more of a like getting the jump on a couple of people does not mean you're going to win an engagement, which I find interesting. I like the weapons. They're doing super fast balance changes. Like the MP5 everyone was using it for a few days, and then they nerfed the damage of it by 33%, which is like a lot. So, and the effect, of course, was that everyone stopped using it, but I would rather them do that and then tweak it back up rather than slowly try to bring it down, which is kind of more what they did for Modern Warfare. And it resulted in, like, instead of a few days of everyone using one gun, it was like a month, and it could be frustrating. So I haven't
touched any of the multiplayer, so
the zombies is pretty fun also. I thought Black Ops 4 zombie mode was very much jumped the shark. But This one has a good zombies mode. It's a lot simpler, and it's fun. So overall, I think it's a really good. If you like Call of Duty, I think you should play this game. With the caveat that I'm kind of 50-50 on the campaign, and not 50-50 like I think it's a 2.5 out of 5. 50-50 like half of me goes, wow, that was a really fun kind of goofy at points thing, and the other half of me goes, wow, this has some shitty stuff in it. So yeah. Did you have any other thoughts on the Blopskala, Alex?
They do some real dumb shit with licensed music in that game.
Yeah.
There was that one scene in particular,
I can't.
in that Russian facility.
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's some very good licensed music moments for sure.
It was very stupid. Where basic spoilers, I guess. I don't know. It's not that big of a spoiler. It's a funny moment of walking into this facility, and it's like it looks like something out of a James Bond movie, where it's just enormous Russian facility in the middle of like Siberian like snow desert.
Yep.
And you get in there, and then like you break in through this back door, and Frank Woods is like, you ready to fuck shit up, because he's a total dumbass. And he slams through the door, and then just the first thing he sees in front of him he takes down, but it's a mannequin, and it's like it's made to look like an American arcade, like straight out of the 80s.
Oh yeah,
like with a bunch of Activision games that you can actually play. And what's the song that's playing? Oh god,
I can't remember now.
I can't remember either, but it's just straight up 80s cheese, like something you would hear in a cheesy 80s movie.
Well, it's just like, it's already out of my head because this is part of the problem of this game is it uses the 80s as like the music and the hair and the clothes without really understanding why the 80s was such a tumultuous time geopolitically. But there's also, I find imagery of the Vietnam War very powerful when you combine the image of helicopters flying with, Creedence playing or whatever. I forget the song they use in this game. I find emotionally engaging and powerful, not for the reasons that Call of Duty wants you to. I'm not like, fuck yeah, let's go use a minigun to level this Vietnamese village. To me, it is the opposite. It is because it was such a dark, awful thing that it is impactful to see imagery from that period. And it's, it's such a thing that should have guided our hand as a country more into the 90s and 2000s and didn't, unfortunately. But I can't deny that before you get into the like shitty stuff in that Vietnam mission, the image of like getting on the helicopter, hearing that music playing is strong. And they do that with music a few times during that campaign, and it's pretty cool when it hits. Which was one of the things I was hoping for the most because I like 80s music. So I wish it had a little more like Depeche Mode and stuff. That's my my one criticism of the music. They have in one of the trailers they used Blue Monday, and I wish that had been in the game because I love that song and it's cool how they use it in the trailer, but I wish that they had used it somewhere in the game itself. That's my Cold War music minute. The menu music is very good.
It is.
I'll say that.
It's very Jack Wall.
Yes. So listening to it while queuing for multiplayer matches, I haven't turned it off yet. Whereas I turned off the Modern Warfare music about 5 minutes after I first opened the multiplayer thing. But
yeah. Anyways, COD Blops.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good game. I think overall I would, solid 8 out of 10 for me. If not a little higher than that. I don't think it's as good as Modern Warfare as a complete package, but
it could Modern Warfare there. We'll see.
It could get it could get there, and there's people that say that they should have done another year of Modern Warfare. We would have gotten. I'm glad that there's something fresh to play, because as much as I love Modern Warfare, it was getting bloated, and they needed a reset. So the last thing I played this week and only for a little bit. But a game I had been watching for a bit, Proteus, came out into early access recently. Have either of you seen Proteus?
So when you were talking about this in our chat, I thought you meant Proteus. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was like,
that's what
wait.
I thought too. And I was like, isn't that out?
I was like, what? I thought Proteus was interesting, but why are we playing it in 2020? But no, so I had not heard of Proteus.
No,
Proteus is a retro-styled shooter, sort of in the Doom lineage, but very much taken. It's like a different branch from the way that they did 2016 Doom. 2016 Doom preserves the kind of tone of classic Doom and largely preserves the way like weapons work, with the exception of the glory kill system, of course.
Sure.
But like the shotgun in 2016 Doom largely works the way the shotgun worked in classic Doom. And then with like, you know, the visual overhaul. Proteus more takes the level design concepts from Doom and other early shooters, and to some extent the aesthetic. It is very much like demons and fucking scary monsters, but visual, and then it hews closer to those games visually. It is one of the most incredible looking games I've played all year because it uses sprites along with like 3D level geometry, but the sprites look fucking amazing. And the way it animates is like not fluid in the sense that like it's still got that, like when you reload, like when you interact with your gun, it doesn't move at a fluid frame rate. It still kind of does the Doom thing where it's like you can see the frames, but it's faster than those games did, and it's really weird and interesting the way that it uses those, like the way it does animations. You really got to look at like a video of it to kind of understand. And then it uses super modern lighting techniques, so all the lighting in the game is incredible looking, along with these like fucking awesome sprites and really interesting animations. So it's an incredible looking game. And then its level design is basically the way that levels worked in classic Doom. But then the weapons feel super modern. They're really interesting. Like the pistol you get at the start, if you hip fire it, it's just a pistol, but you can hold down the right mouse button to aim down the iron sights of the pistol, and then it becomes like a 3-round burst fire weapon.
That's weird for Doom, because Doom definitely didn't have that.
No, yeah. So, and because the sprites are so fucking awesome looking, aiming down the iron sights of this like sprite gun is amazing looking. And then like you get 2 SMGs that are in like one in each hand, and you can fire each one individually, and then it's like left click to fire, right click to fire until you run out of ammo, or you can hold both buttons down and it does this like super inaccurate spray that'll just shred anything that's at close range. The shotgun has like a charge mode. If you hold down the right click, this is a little closer to classic Doom, and then left click just shoots it. Anyway, it's like it's incredibly fun to play. It moves really fast. The shooting feels like awesome, and then you finish. The levels are really intricate and have lots of branching paths and secrets to find and stuff, and much more. From what I've played, it's less like hammer E while you move on this wall, and more like logical and like you see a thing off in the distance and you got to figure out how to get there. And then in between levels, and this is the part I haven't dug into a ton, there's apparently like 3 different weapons for each slot, and the slots are tied to ammo type, kind of, because you can. That's not really true, because the SMGs and the pistol use the same ammo and you can bring them both. But it looks like there's a shitload of weapons in this game, with more to come. And the way when you finish a level, instead of just going to the next level, you get a map that's like an overworld map that has like nodes on it, and so you kind of move between them, and you can go back to old levels to like almost in kind of a Metroidvania-y way. Now you have a new thing. I haven't played enough to see how much this is true, but I think the way it works is you need certain things you get in later levels to fully 100% complete earlier levels.
Right.
And it's just super cool looking. It looks great. It plays great. I'm really, really impressed with it. And it's early access. So they're going to include, it has like a 5-hour campaign already, but they're going to be adding more multiplayer support. I don't know if it has any multiplayer yet. The Steam page doesn't say it does, but it has an option in the menu for online, but it'll have multiplayer support, more campaign stuff, and more weapons and enemy types. And then there's a really robust level creator in it also, so that you can just Steam Workshop hundreds of player made levels. It's really fucking cool. If you like retro styled shooters, I cannot recommend it highly enough. It is.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Awesome.
Given how thoroughly disappointed I was in Doom Eternal, like this seems like something I might actually want to check out. Yeah,
I think you should. It's, again, like the big difference that it has with something like Doom 2016 is that the level design is much more classic Doom.
It almost seems like if it's a game as if modern game design had branched off of Duke Nukem 3D.
Sure.
Like if things had kept going in that direction, like just watching it, which is cool because Duke 3D was actually pretty good.
Yeah. I would say there's no story in it like at all. So know that going in. It sets it up by saying like, you are a blah 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 and the blah 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 fighting the blah blah. I don't even remember. It's like it's half a paragraph of text.
No, and it's like that very much that game. Like you're doing this, have fun.
Yes, it's
stuff. And you're
this is a video game.
It has a surprisingly long opening without you having a gun, which I thought was kind of interesting. By surprisingly long, I mean like 5 minutes, not like an hour.
That is kind of surprisingly long for a game like that, let's be honest.
I expected it to be like you start with a gun in hand and just start shooting immediately. It actually, there's like 5 minutes of kind of moving through cool environments before you get there. But
and then you start shooting?
Yes. And then I started blasting.
Nice.
It is just a joy to play. It's so much fun to play, and I highly recommend it. Especially if you're into like circle strafing and managing a large room full of enemies of different kinds that are all doing different sorts of attacks at you, it is for you.
Cool.
I suspect that if it comes out next year, there'll be some. It's a game of the year caliber game already, I would say, from what I've played.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So, yeah. That's all I got, though. So, there's something I have been wanting to get back to, though. I can't stop thinking about it. And that's Bug Snacks.
Yeah.
Allison, you finished Bug Snacks.
I finished Bug Snacks. I am like sitting here in anticipation of somebody else on this podcast finishing Bug Snacks.
I will. Don't worry, I will.
I know that you will. But I'm like, I want to talk about it now because there's a lot in that game that I don't want to talk about because of spoilers.
See, now you know how I felt for years with Danganronpa V3.
So the problem I'm encountering is that I feel like I have to play through Odyssey. Like I can't do anything else because the second that I step away from it, it's
100%
like hard to get back to it. So
like thinking about going back to Odyssey, I'm like, I'd have to restart that game because I don't think I could
and I
like go back and
I'm not going to finish it and roll right into Valhalla. I really want to try to just like
honestly
have an extra day off next week. So I'm going to try to just hammer through it over the next, I'm about a third of the way in. I'm looking at like a list of quests so I can kind of track how far into the game that I am for the main quest. I'm like a third of the way in after 20 hours. I think I can probably play 40 hours of it in the next 2 weeks. Anyway, Bug Snacks though.
Bug Snacks. Talking about Bug Snacks. So that game goes places and I was like really, really impressed. I think the game itself is I mean without even spoiling anything, you can see that it's cute, it's fun, it
is an E-rated game.
It's just genuinely fun. Is it though? Because again,
I've heard that the thing that made me like even more excited about it is when they talked about it on Waypoint. Patrick Klepek was talking about it and how he enjoyed it, and Austin Walker was like, but this is like, Klepek was like, it's kind of like a kid's game, and Austin was like, okay, because I know it has this horror element that they teased, but it's not a horror game. Klepek was like, no, it's not. And then Austin's like, okay, so it doesn't go in like a don't hug me, I'm scared direction. And Klepek was like, well. And so that made me very excited because I love Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared.
I've seen people on Twitter be like, oh, I'm playing this with my children, and I'm like, sure about that?
What I've heard is that as long as you don't explain it to children, it's fine. But like
children's media sometimes goes into wild directions,
such as
now
Paper Mario. Doesn't that also have some kind of
things? Oh yeah. But like, I mean, that like kind of similarly to Paper Mario, I was not anticipating going into this game and being as emotionally invested in all the characters as I was, but it is like some of my favorite character writing I've seen in a while, and that is like, I was not expecting that. Like, because I was expecting, like going into it, I was expecting it's going to be cute, it's going to be weird, it's going to have that little creepy element, and maybe, but like ultimately, I wasn't expecting that the characters would be so good, and yet playing that game, I really highly suggest that. Like, I didn't end up doing the platinum yet because I was just like, I just wanted to get to the end of the story.
Mm-hmm.
But I do suggest doing all the side quests because all of them like solely are character building, and they're like going through all the characters, and there's so many characters where you're introduced to them and you're like, I don't know about you. You seem kind of, I'm not sure about you. You're kind of annoying, or you're kind of mean, or you're kind of whatever. And then you start seeing all the like reasons that they're that way, and all of the reasons that they put up those walls about themselves and their motivations and what they want to do with that. And you're just like, why do I love all these characters that are named stuff like Snorpy?
I'll say, even just the like hour or two that I played, I was like legitimately blown away by how good the writing and performances are.
Yeah, the performances are so good. And
I already had fairly high expectations because they released the voice cast and stuff. So I was already, it wasn't like I was coming in without expectations. And it's really fantastic, especially considering that the dialogue that I've seen so far is very much in the format of like a classic like Spyro or Ratchet and Clank or whatever, where it's not like you're in these super dynamic moments with these characters. It's very much like they're on screen in front of you and there's a dialogue box below and they're talking.
It's kind of like Oblivion, really almost
good.
From what I've seen,
it's not like RPG dialogue.
No, but it looks like it's kind of that.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
It looks
like,
just from watching it.
But
seems...
at the start, you're like, it's like, hey, I need some bug snacks. Please get me this bug snack. Like, like there's more to it than that. Like, because there's a lot of flavor to it. But like at the start, like that's kind of the
yes,
like the drive of it is like, hey, I would like to bring me my favorite bug snack. And then you go and you're like, well, you have a hot dog on your wall with hearts around it. I guess that's your favorite.
And I guess what I'm getting at is that I think, as a almost 30-year-old person who's been playing games my whole life and has really loved RPGs to a degree in first-person games, and even in games like Assassin's Creed, I think the like very static, like I have entered, I'm at my mark, I'm going to stand here, and we're going to emphatically move our upper bodies while we talk to each other. That kind of like dialogue it's surprising to me that we haven't found a way to be more dynamic over time. Like nobody does that. Or when people don't do it as much as it happens in those kinds of games. So the fact that Bugsnax still leverages that in such a way that is really impressive from a writing and performance standpoint is really cool.
Yeah, and it starts out like you're like, oh, okay, this is this stock character. Oh, this is the stock jock, or this is the stock kind of snooty gossip. Like there's all these characters that kind of fit these stock molds, and then you're just like, by the end, I was like emotionally invested. I was like, I think I cried, but that's also not a surprise because like things make me emotional. Yeah, it goes like really good places with the characters and with the storytelling. So I was really impressed.
Yeah, I'm excited to get back to it.
So it's like very